In March of this year, 2026, a woman in Hong Kong we'll call Mrs. Chan opened a letter from her landlord. Now, Mrs. Chan lives in what Hong Kongers call a subdivided flat. Picture a normal apartment that somebody sliced into pieces like a cake. Hers is about 80 square feet with a bed, a rice cooker, and a folding table that has to be folded before the door can open. She's lived there for years. It's not much, but it's hers, it's near her cleaning job, and she can afford it. The letter told her to get out. And here's the twist. The landlord wasn't evicting her because he's cruel or because he found a richer tenant. He was evicting her because the government just made her home illegal. On March 1st, 2026, Hong Kong began enforcing a new law banning residential units smaller than 8 square meters, 86 square feet. Mrs. Chan's flat is too small to be legal. So the law designed to protect people like her is throwing people like her onto the street. Charities say around 300 households have already received eviction notices, with thousands more in limbo. What would you do if you were in Mrs. Chan's shoes? Some of you might be thinking, well, good. Nobody should live in 80 square feet. And I get it. But hold that thought, because by the end of this video, I think you'll see why banning small rooms doesn't make small rooms go away. It just makes the people in them disappear from view. Because here's what we found when we started pulling this thread. The shrinking room isn't a Hong Kong story. It's a global product line. In Hong Kong, roughly 220,000 people in subdivided flats, some as small as a coffin, literally called coffin homes, renting for more per square foot than luxury apartments. In Seoul, and if you saw last video, you know this one, hundreds of thousands of people in goshiwons, 70 square feet, $250 a month, free rice included. In New York City, an estimated tens of thousands of illegal basement and cellar apartments, housing mostly immigrants. You can't see them from the street. That's the point. In Tokyo, share houses and capsule-style apartments of 9 square meters. In London, studio flats where the shower is next to the stove. Different cities, different names, same product. The smallest legally rentable or illegally rentable box for a human being, priced at exactly what the working poor can pay. Now, why should you care if you live in none of these cities? Because this is what the bottom rung of the housing ladder looks like right before it snaps. And in every one of these cities, the snap is happening in one of two ways, and your city is on one of the two paths. That's what we need to explore. To understand how we got here, forget architecture. Follow 3 numbers. Number 1, land. Every one of these cities is geographically trapped. Hong Kong is mountains and water. Only about a quarter of its land is even developed. Seoul is ringed by mountains and a militarized border. Manhattan is an island. When a city can't grow out, prices grow up. Number 2, wages. The cleaner, the security guard, the delivery rider, the student. Every city runs on people who earn a fraction of what its housing costs. In Hong Kong, a subdivided flat tenant might spend 40% or more of their income on that sliced up room. Number 3, and this is the one nobody talks about, the gap between those two numbers is a business opportunity. In Hong Kong, buying a normal flat, slicing it into 4 and renting the slices can yield far more than renting it whole. The subdivided flat isn't a failure of the market. It's the market's best-selling answer to a question the city refused to answer: where do the working poor sleep? And once you see that, you understand something uncomfortable. The tiny room is not a glitch. Somebody does the math. Somebody signs the permits or looks the other way. Somebody collects the rent. It exists by design. So what do governments do when the tiny rooms become a scandal? There are exactly 2 playbooks, and 2026 is giving us a live experiment in both. Path 1, the ban. That's Hong Kong. Register every subdivided unit, outlaw anything under 86 square feet, require a window, a toilet, a sink. Landlords get until 2030 to comply. From 2027, violators face fines up to 300,000 Hong Kong dollars and 3 years in prison. On paper, it's civilized. In practice, Mrs. Chan's letter. Landlords do the math again. Renovating costs money, evicting is free. The government says public housing will absorb the displaced. They're promising 196,000 new units over 5 years. But the waiting list for public housing in Hong Kong has famously run 5+ years. You see the problem. The ban arrives now. The housing arrives later. Mrs. Chan lives in the gap. Path to the legalization. That's New York. In 2021, Hurricane Ida's floodwater poured into the city's invisible basement apartments and 11 people drowned in their own homes. 11. Mostly immigrants in units the city officially pretended didn't exist. And New York's answer was the opposite of Hong Kong's, don't ban the basements. Drag them into the light. A pilot program now lets homeowners legalize basement and cellar units if they add 2 exits, flood sensors, smoke alarms, and proper heating. Tenants get to stay while the work happens. Flood zone basements are excluded. Applications run to 2029. Same problem. Opposite bets. Hong Kong is betting that outlawing the bottom rung forces the market to build better rungs. New York is betting that the bottom rung is load-bearing, that you reinforce it, because the people standing on it have nowhere else to stand. Now here's where it gets worse, because both paths have a body count, just different ones. The ban's cost is visible now. Evictions, displacement, people paying more for the flats that survive regulation because supply just shrank. Rents on compliant, subdivided flats are already reported rising. Ban the $200 room and the $200 tenant doesn't become a $500 tenant. They become a rooftop dweller, or a Mac refugee sleeping in a 24-hour McDonald's, or they leave the city that cannot run without them. The legalization's cost is slower. You've made the tiny room permanent. Official, a recognized asset class. Landlords now have a government certificate for the 80 square foot life. Critics in New York point out the pilot excludes exactly the flood-prone neighborhoods where most basement tenants actually live, meaning the people either killed would mostly not be covered. You legalize the safest basements and rebury the rest. And meanwhile, the force driving all of it, the gap between wages and housing, didn't move an inch in either city. We're regulating the shape of the box. Nobody's asking why the box keeps shrinking. So, which path is right? Ban the box or bless the box? I genuinely don't know. Hong Kong's path says a rich society should refuse to let humans live in 80 square feet, whatever the cost. New York's path says refusing doesn't build a single apartment. Meet people where they actually live. Both are true. That's what makes it a trap. But here's the part I can't stop thinking about. Last episode, a student in Seoul told himself the 70 square foot room was temporary, a rung on a ladder. Mrs. Chan isn't young anymore. She's been in that room for years. At some point, nobody said it out loud, but the temporary room became the permanent one. That's how this works everywhere. Not with a decision, but with a lease renewal. 1 year at a time, the smallest room in the city becomes somebody's whole life. Check the cheapest listing in your city tonight. Measure it. Whatever number you get, that's not the bottom of your market. That's the blueprint for where it's going. Nothing about it is an accident. If this is the kind of thing you want explained every week, the systems people live inside without ever voting on them, subscribe and turn the bell on. New channel, and honestly, the algorithm decides in the first 48 hours whether anyone sees this. Next episode, the world's third largest economy is losing control of its own money, and one caregiver's paycheck shows exactly what that means. Stay with me.